All right, you guys, Think Bigger podcast, community conversations. I'm here with my boy, Jason Moseley of Unlimited Exclusive. What's up, Jay?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed. I appreciate you being here. You know, it's been a long time coming. We've talked about this for quite some time. We are here in an undisclosed location in New Jersey. I'm out on the east, and I get to sit here with you in your neck of the woods. You know, you're part of the country, and we get to have a conversation with each other. So I appreciate you being a guest, man.
I'm excited about it, man. I've been listening to your stuff for so long, and yeah, dude, it's dope to actually be a part of the process. You know?
Yeah, you know what, you guys. So there's a lot going on with Jason. Jason is a gentleman who I've had the opportunity to work with in certain contexts, and then it evolved to more than that. You know, we got along as men and as workers and people with a certain type of ethic and so on and so forth, and it created a rapport that led to much more than just work-related conversations, and it's gotten us to a point where we can be here together doing the podcast. So, Jason, and as you know, Community Conversations is a conversation with a member of the community, and we learn not just about them, but we learn from them. That's what it's about. It's about bringing people together. Everybody can understand and relate to what another man has gone through, what another woman has gone through. And so that's what this is all about, you know? So I met Jason in the automotive world. You would probably be much more sharp at specifics like the year. Do you happen to remember that actually?
Oh, man, all these years kind of get blended
They do.
together.
They really do.
Especially with the events and whatnot. Like, I had just realized that, man, we've been doing these events for maybe 6-7 years now, at least on my end.
Yes.
But no, I can't even remember like the very, very first event that we linked up on.
Sure. I don't either.
Yeah.
But you guys, what it is I was working with various car event series, and I actually don't remember if it was physically at an event or via some kind of online introduction, Instagram or whatever. But I saw your work, and you had seen mine, and it just kind of turned into us obviously being able to talk in person. And the work that I'm talking about is Jason's company, his brand Unlimited Exclusive. Tell people about that, man. I mean, it's media, but in what branches? Like, what all do you do, and how did you get into it?
Unlimited, when I initially started Unlimited, it actually started out as JM Exclusive.
Okay.
JM Exclusive was my automotive branch.
Yeah.
And I was at the time, that was when I was in college, just getting out of high school, and I was really into like modifying cars.
Yes.
And I was really big on the fabrication side of things.
Yes.
And I was early into YouTube.
Yes.
Heavy.
Yes.
So when all those things kind of came together, I started JM Exclusive on YouTube, and that was just me sharing just the ins and outs of me building and my process, and just inviting people into that. And then somewhere along the line, I started to kind of branch out. I wanted to branch out. I had this bigger vision of expanding not only expanding the video side of things. And at the time, I really wanted to branch it out into my community, the people around me. I had a bunch of friends. That
like
were
car friends.
No, they were actually just your everyday friends that I went to high school with.
Yeah.
And I really wanted a way to kind of like have one house of all of us kind of just like sharing our talents and
figuratively, like a co-op.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's when I came up with Unlimited.
Yeah.
And that was my venture into trying to create an overall media company.
Yes.
With all those people, and really be able to create something that was not only just about visuals, but just more about people
Yes.
and the people involved with it, because that was the biggest thing for me, was just being able to highlight other people's talents,
Okay.
other than just myself.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. You said in the beginning it was JM Exclusives, and that was the automotive brand. So you're out of high school, you're into cars already, right? So before JM Exclusives was a title, was a name, was anything, how and where did you get into cars? What got you as Jason out in Jersey into cars?
It was really just it was honestly my natural, really just, I just had a thing for tweaking and playing with things. I was the type of kid that just always took apart his VCR.
Sure.
For those who knows what that is.
So your parents were probably hot.
Yeah,
All the
man.
time.
I used to take apart my TVs. I used to take apart radio. I used to just always be into electronics. I used to always wanted to be one of those people that was an inventor.
Sure.
So when I first got my car, it was I was 16.
Yes.
I got a '97 Toyota Celica ST.
Okay.
And
I actually did not know this story.
Yeah, that was my baby, and I tore that thing up 3 times. I can't even count.
Like electronically or mechanically? Everything.
Everything. And that was my lab rat. That was one of the things that, like, I would just go, I would find some new gizmo, and my thing was that I was into car audio, and I was into stereos and all that stuff like that. But then I was also into, like I said, like I was also into like trying to invent and stuff. So that's where, like, I kind of attracted to, like, the fabrication side of things and always coming up with, like, new ideas. So that was my thing. And for the longest time, I've never been to a car. I haven't been to a car show.
Yeah.
I had no interest in being into a.
Were you even seeing them online or not even looking at that?
Not even.
Okay.
Not even. I think my first car show was, I think it was Nopi.
Yeah. Nope Nationals.
Yeah.
Like what, 97, 98 or something?
Man, I can't even remember.
Or you think maybe early 2000s?
It was probably early 2000s.
Okay.
Very early 2000s. For Nobi, because I didn't go to one after. I didn't go to one after that. And that was when I kind of transitioned, because the only other car show that I had known of at the time was the Philadelphia Auto Show.
Yeah.
And that's completely separate from
very different. Very different.
Very different. So, I was actually just building a rapport for myself within my own kind of bubble.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until one of my friends that I was actually doing a build for was like, hey, why don't you go to these car shows? Why don't you go to these? Because, people were winning shows and going out with, stuff that I've installed.
Yes.
And I never really went to go follow the cars afterwards.
After you did your job.
Yeah, I just heavily enjoyed working on people's cars and the feedback.
So let's touch on that. High school, you're into the electronics, dabbling. I want to know how this works, and the only way I know how to figure that out is to just take it apart.
Yep.
And then taking apart something is easy. Putting it back together so that it works the same is entirely different, right? So you do all that. Where and how do you think that it came to you to decide to name it something and quote unquote make something of it? There's a lot of people that have ideas. There's a lot of people that have the compunction to take stuff apart and put stuff together. But why? How did you title it and try to give it some kind of line of passage to become something?
So at the time, when YouTube started out, and it was right in the beginning of YouTube. I was completely sold in on the idea of YouTube and what it was bringing to the table.
Okay.
And when I was doing my car installs and when I was doing my fabrication, I was like, yo, I want to put videos out because I've always recorded myself in high school.
Yeah.
I've always been that kid with the camcorder. So
Okay.
I was already into video, so I just kind of transitioned that, and I always was like, man, what am I going to call this? And what was I going to call my channel? What was I going to kind of give it a body?
Yeah.
And that's when I came up with JM Exclusive, which was my name, and then Exclusive was just my brand of building, because I always tried to come up with new out of the box things.
Yeah. So that's where JM Exclusives came from.
Mm-hmm.
So you are installing, creating, and installing miscellaneous automotive modifications, and those cars are going to various events that you never went to. Some of them are winning, and somebody was like, does it not occur to you to go and see what the whole thing is about? Is that and that's what it was? And so you were just like, true, right?
Yeah,
So is this where the taillight? Because so one of the first things I remember is you were making taillights. So for my car guys, Car Shop Glow and all of these wild taillights, one of the first things I saw you make was taillights that did those types of pulsating LEDs and changing colors and stuff. And it was just like, that was either about the same time or even before a lot of people even knew what Car Shop Glow was. And then you have their taillights, which are in the 4 digits, and you were like, oh, I just made somebody that for like $300.
Yeah.
And I was like, how come more people don't know about that, right? They're willing to spend, And I mean, obviously now, for the car people, it's going to make Car Shop Glow is a thing, whether you have this or that, new or old, they're hitting every market. So you could have an 80-something Japanese classic, and they'll hit you with the wildest taillights, right?
Yeah.
So you were doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so did that come after car audio? Like with audio came lighting, because back in the day when you had audio, you also had like crazy light. I mean, some people still do that, but was that what it was? It went from audio and that type of electronic work to the lighting and pulsating and going to a beat. Is that what that was?
I was when I was working on my Celica at the time. It wasn't necessarily just car audio. I was really I usually used to take a lot of my inspiration from big tech, because that's one of the things that like I follow every day in little newspapers and stuff like that. So at the time, like I had built my own push button start.
Yeah.
I wired a ton of relays together, and it was just really just some.
So you didn't use an S2000. This was before the S2000.
Oh, this is
so you
90.
didn't use that.
Yeah,
you didn't use
like,
that button. You just picked a button.
Yeah,
and made it to be an electrical start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is way before any cars were really even doing that heavy.
You just thought it would be dope to have a button instead of turning the key.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that was kind of my brand of building. I was always just looking at like what's the newest tech and stuff like that, and then how can I kind of put that into a car.
Sure.
So the taillights, they came at the time that I started doing the taillights. It was really it was already kind of like done for me.
Okay.
I had thought of the idea of possibly doing that, but then by the time I actually ended up putting it into practice and actually putting it into somebody's car, it was already kind of like picking up on its wave as far as like the trends and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so it wasn't something at the time that I was like, oh, let me just do this for my own car or whatnot. So I kind of waited until somebody was just interested enough to kind of.
Okay, so you never tried to push that.
Yeah, no.
So when did it go from car audio and then, electrical tail lights and push buttons and all? When did it go to, hey, I'm gonna pick up this camera and start doing photography and then videography? How did that happen?
So at the time, I had just got done one of I built this Infinity build that took first place at Tune Revolution.
What year was this?
That was 2013.
Okay.
That was my first like industry like
heavy hitting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about
that.
That
was the show.
Quick.
That was the show that.
That might have been when we met in person. But okay, so let's touch on that. When you say this build that you did, what did you do on that build exactly?
So I fabricated I put in a whole new focal audio system.
Okay.
I did fiberglass A pillars, fiberglass kick panels. I did I did a fiberglass center console.
Yes.
A rear center console in the car. We also and then I also did like a full trunk build.
Yeah.
In the car. It was two focal subs, 3 amps, and air ride.
Oh, so you did everything including the air ride.
I did not do the air ride,
Okay.
but I just did the kind of the dressing around
Oh,
the air ride.
its layout in the
whole
trunk.
layout of the trunk.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. That was version 1.0.
Okay.
And so we won Tune Revolution. Customer brought it back to me. He was like, "Yo, I want to go crazier.
Okay.
Take everything out. I'm gonna get new stuff.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go and just do whatever you do."
So he gave you full creative freedom.
So it gave me full creative freedom, and I had a ton of time to do it.
Yeah.
And that was when I started, and that's when I really started like getting into like more of the camera work and stuff like that.
Okay.
And once I finished that build, a lot, needless to say, we ended up wrecking the car
Okay.
before the show.
Okay. Now hold on. I actually remember this now.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this like right after it happened.
Mm-hmm.
You, if I remember correctly, you just worked so long and so hard at it that you were sleep deprived. Is that correct?
I worked so many hours into this car, so much, and the biggest thing, the thing for me was that after it happened, it just took so much out of me.
Yes.
That I actually had to take a break from working on cars because I actually had some jobs lined up after that. And I told people, I was like, look, I can't even really get into it right now with that, because I was.
So you were taking it to the show the morning of, just to put it simply, not enough sleep, you're exhausted, and you crashed. That's really the simple story, right? How did the customer take it?
Not well.
Of course. Okay.
Not well. It was, and they actually they probably took it better than me.
Okay, you were harder on yourself. Yeah.
Because to them, I guess it was more so, just an extra toy because that was one of many vehicles that they had.
Yeah.
But for me, I sacrificed a lot of time, a lot of social time.
And you put your heart and soul into it.
And I put a lot of heart into it, into building that and what I was going to hope that was going to come from that. And after that was done, it kind of shell shocked me, and
yes.
You know what I mean. It was a little traumatic for me.
Took the wind out of yourself. Yeah. So so we're all the way to 2013, right? But I mean, when all of the tinkering and all of the stuff that you had self-taught to get to that point, it wasn't just self-taught, right? You ended up also getting a formal education in electrical engineering. Right?
I was still going to school. I was still going to school
all
at
of
the
this.
time. Yeah.
So you were working and in school, hence the lack of sleep, right?
Yeah.
And you ended up going to school for electrical engineering. So it wasn't, you allowed your natural inclination as a kid, and then you formalized it, right? So you got educated in an academic fashion, so you combined that with the love, and that's kind of the foundation for how you got to where you are, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so the car, 2013, all that stuff happens, but you're still working on cars to this day. So it didn't take that much.
Not as much though.
Fair enough.
Not as much though. So that's actually where the taillights came into play, because I made the decision to kind of like not necessarily go into big heavy builds and stuff like that, just because I just wasn't well equipped to really make sense of the labor and all that.
Sure.
So I decided that, you know, if I was going to do any, you know, custom jobs and stuff like that, that it was going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit
more exclusive.
A little bit more exclusive. I like how you put that.
Thank you. I'm here all day. So all right. So now, like we talked about, a little bit less on the cars, but at what point had still photography and videography made its way into your brain and your like soul?
So during that break.
Okay. See, so something was brewing.
Yes.
Okay.
During that break,
from automotive customization.
Yeah. That was when I wanted to start making the change. I started making the switch.
Yeah.
At least to focus more on that, because I'm just not the type of person just kind of like just sit down and just be like, oh, I'm not really gonna do anything today.
Sure.
You know? So, I started examining JM Exclusive, and then that's when I kind of started with the Unlimited Exclusive.
Yeah.
And at the time, like I said, I had a bunch of my friends that were, you know, into it, and that let's do this. But then when it kind of came down to the work side of it and the grind that was involved with it, we definitely underestimated that.
Sure.
And you know, little by little, it kind of like, you know, everybody kind of just strayed away.
Yes.
And then it left me to kind of carry everything, and I ended up taking on that role.
Yeah.
And that's how I started picking up the camera and started learning still photography.
Yeah.
Started honing in on learning the techniques of, you know, videography and stuff like that.
Okay, so when you got to this point where you wanted to learn and were learning techniques of photography and videography, how were you educating yourself? Where and how were you getting the tools?
Mostly online.
Yes.
I was going through YouTube.
Yes.
Learning YouTube, and then just straight up going out and practicing what I learned.
Just pushing 1,000 buttons, right? Getting 1,000 pictures and figuring out composition, rule of thirds, how to get it crisp and clean, framing, all that, right?
And at the time, I was, you know, when I was working with TE.
Yeah.
So I had access to a lot of models.
Yeah.
I had access to a lot of that community.
Yes.
So I would always, you know, be active.
So there was women in cars galore.
Women, cars, other photographers.
Yeah.
I would constantly ask. I'm the guy who would always ask questions, especially if I know that you know something more than me. I'm gonna ask a ton of questions, and I just kind of hit the ground running with that.
Okay, so we're talking about you're a kid, high school, right? Dabbling, getting your hands dirty was never something you had a problem doing. Some people are, I think, scared to really get into that underneath their first car or take apart their father's TV because you're going to get your ass beat. Right? So there's all these different types of things. You ended up supplementing all that with an academic education, right? But in this case, right, when it came to photography and videography, you didn't end up going to the academic route. You're self-taught, but you utilized the internet for all of its resources, right?
Absolutely.
So YouTube, you're just looking up cats that were way early doing the whole review tutorial thing, because there are people who were doing it mad early. And that was a teaching tool, right? So we have one example of how physical breakdowns happen because of lack of sleep. So, you know me, and we talk about this, you and I and a bunch of other people. There is a work ethic involved with you can have all the fucking passion in the world, right? You know, you were passionate about electronics, you were passionate about cars, and that passion was broken in half when that car accident happened, right? If it was all just about the passion, that could have been the ending point. And that actually is the ending point for a lot of people from what I have observed, right? But for you got a work ethic, right? But there are people who are going to say there isn't enough time, right? So how do you answer people who say that? Like, and they mean it. I'm not talking about the lazy. There's always going to be the lazy people. I'm not talking about the lazy people. I'm talking about the people who aren't lazy, but they genuinely are like, I don't understand how he was in high school and how he's working on cars, how he had a part-time job, and I don't get it. Like, where or how does one make that work? What would you say to that?
So, for me, it's really it's really where your priorities are.
Okay.
And at that time, those were my priorities, and that's, so when I would come home from work, the second I would come home from work,
Yes.
I wouldn't even eat. I would just go right to the garage
Start working.
and start working.
Okay, now the one thing that we haven't even talked about yet is in the midst of having a job, in the midst of everything else, which, by the way, at some point someone needs to go to sleep for 2-3 hours, right?
Yeah.
But in the midst of all that, you ended up having a son.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about that.
Yeah.
So for the people listening right now, and even understandably so, you're kind of thinking about how, okay, damn, that's crazy. This dude was working a lot. How old is your son now?
He's 8.
Okay, so 8 years. You're also a parent. And it just so happens that in present day, you are a single father. Your son lives with you, which is a little bit more typically not the case, right? It tends to be a little bit more so the other direction.
Yeah.
The child or children live with the mother for various reasons, and the father is either a deadbeat or gets the every other weekend kind of thing, right? But no. So how, even in now, from 2019 backward, right? How are you able to do all of those and still raise your son actively? Not with a tablet in his hand and he just lives life staring at a computer. No, because you actively raise your son. I see it on your social media. You guys are out. You're having him read books. You guys are riding bikes. You guys are playing basketball. You guys are in the park. You just letting little man run through a field, frolicking. You know what I'm saying? Kids are supposed to frolic.
Went to Puerto Rico.
Took the little man to Puerto Rico. So that's what I'm talking about. We're talking about work. We're talking about being a father. We're talking about educating yourself. We're talking about physically working, right? So how do you respond to someone who only has 1 or 2 or 3 of those circumstances in their life? They don't even have all of them, and they're genuinely feeling like they can't make it, or they're overwhelmed right now, and they don't even have one of those. Maybe the son, maybe the education, maybe the whatever. What do you say to someone? Because I know that's what a lot of people are feeling. What do you say to somebody who's like, I don't know how to do it?
I would really look into what really motivates them, and then also kind of question, where their mindset is. Because for me, and I think a lot of people well underestimate the difficulty that I have with all the things that I do and all the things that I make happen, is as how much I struggle with it when I go home. And there's plenty of times where I have to sacrifice time with my son. I have to sacrifice time with myself sometimes, and then my social life. So all those things wrapped into one are extremely difficult. But it's definitely, for me, what really helped me get past it and get through it and really try to figure it out. It was really just try to figure out, what I wanted to do, and being certain in following through with that, and committing and having a commitment to, what I'm trying to do and the things that I do, whether it be being a father, or whether it be being a builder, whether it be being a photographer.
Yeah.
I can't necessarily say I want to do something and then just kind of give it a half effort.
That you just don't know how to do that.
I do not know how to do that, and I get that it's difficult for a lot of people to really wrap their head around, but there's time. And once I started blocking those different times out and really kind of visualizing,
Okay.
what I wanted to accomplish and where can I put this and how can I kind of schedule this in, that's when I started really kind of hitting the ground running and being able to like fit all these things in.
Sure.
Once you like I use a Google Calendar.
Yeah.
And that calendar has a multitude of things. It has things that have to do with my son. It has just my daily life stuff.
Yes.
It has my car stuff. It has the photography stuff and all that stuff like that on there. And once I started being able to, block those out and actually visualize, like, okay, I have X amount of hours a day.
Yeah.
Now sleep is important.
Yes.
Very important. So once I start blocking out what's the priorities and stuff like that, that's when I kind of started realizing, like, oh, you know what? I don't have to sit here and watch, get caught up in the timelines. You start realizing how much time you start losing when you're scrolling through timelines.
Oh, you mean like Facebook?
Yeah. You start realizing how much time you're losing scrolling and
Man,
doing.
dude, that's why I closed my Facebook 8 years ago. Because I realized every time you open it, or the app, when they came out with the app, you see like 34 notifications and you got like 17 private messages. So even the amount of time you take to decide which one of those you don't even answer, you still have to look at it. Because some of them you would want to or should answer. And the amount of time it started taking up, I was like, I can't do this, man. Yeah. So same thing with, is that what it was? You were just like, yo, I can't do this.
It's a focus thing too, because like if I'm editing, there's a real, like, I have to be really honed in and focused on what I'm editing, because there's just a feel to it, and there's just like a workflow that I kind of try to stick to. But if my phone is going off, or if I'm answering messages and stuff like that, you realize like an hour project ends up turning into 2 hours or 3 hours, and it's little micro insignificant things that you don't really think about until you realize, damn, I didn't get anything done today.
Well, and then, no, it's totally true, man. Time management, staying focused, But, I mean, there's a lot of people who say, okay, well, I'm not even on social media that much, right? I don't know. Like, how did you get over that when you found out, okay, for example, right? When you found out you were going to be a dad. Right? Was that some kind of shell-shocking moment where you're like, I need to reassess my whole life? Or were you one of those people that was able to be like, okay, well, this is still what I'm going to do. I just now have a son to prioritize.
Yep.
Just like that.
That's exactly what I did. And at the time, I was kind of the planner, to say, in the relationship.
Yeah.
So, I always...
Is that a nice way of saying you were the more responsible one?
I mean, I like spontaneous women.
Okay.
Okay. But that was my thing. Once I had my kid, I was just immediate. Okay, we gotta come up with a plan.
Yeah.
All right, here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And it didn't. And one of the things at the time, I didn't want to necessarily kind of completely change directions or go off and do something completely separate, or go work some job that I really didn't care about, or anything like that. Yeah. So I was like, okay, how can I make what I'm doing work and still, make this, and still, be a good father and do what I got to do. Okay. Okay. So, how did it end up becoming the point where you are now the parent who has the child? How did that happen? At the time, and that was a difficult stint for me, because at the time, unfortunately, once I ended up, so our relationship didn't work out.
Okay.
And things kind of went south after that, and it was kind of like a battle as far as, because at the time, his mother was living with me.
Okay.
She was from Newark.
Okay.
And I'm in Marlton, which is like, if anybody knows Jersey, that's like the suburb of all suburbs. So I moved her down with me, and once I moved her down and we broke up or whatnot, it was just a big thing as far as, her wanting to have a lot or have my son or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I put my foot down on that as far as, just saying, like, look, I think it would be better if, he stayed down here. And at the time, the only thing that I was thinking of at the time was just, he has really great school systems here, and he just has a little bit more of a stable setup here. And that was the biggest thing that I was concerned with. So, we ended up having to kind of go to court. Yeah. Because we couldn't necessarily come to an agreement.
On those types of things.
Yeah, on those things. And then during the whole court situation, that's when things kind of got really left. And I kind of went through the whole thing of, them trying to, defame me and stuff like that.
Them being her and her lawyer?
Yeah. That was probably one of my most difficult like periods of my life ever. And I rarely ever reflect and kind of talk about it, just even to myself. I kind of brush that experience under the rug.
But that's what they do in family court, is they just basically try to make you sound like the worst human being
ever.
It
was
so that you can be deemed unfit, so they get the child.
Yeah, it was.
So all those episodes of Law and Order SVU,
they are real.
When they're in court, they be doing that
real.
to each other.
This is very real, man. It's very real. And I always have like this optimistic. I have always this optimism about life, and so when that whole thing was going on, it was just a shock to me. Yeah. Like, oh my God, like, how could these people do this? Sure. How could these people be like this? Sure. But luckily, the judge kind of saw through a lot of things.
Okay. Because it's very rare.
It is.
For the father, to be awarded full custody, right? Mm-hmm. That's a very rare thing.
If they would have got their way, I don't know what my life would look like.
You might not even be able to see him, or supervised only, or something. One of those things.
Yeah. Like it was to the point where like they only wanted to give me one weekend a month.
And like every other major holiday or some rare amount, and you were like, no.
Split holiday, and all. I was like, nah, man.
So was it? If you had to look back, was it the judge having the astute kind of perception to see through all that, or was it you had a good lawyer, or how did it all work out for you?
Her lawyer was very unprepared and unprofessional. Okay. So it was if anything, I lucked out by her lawyer.
Because the lawyer pissed off the judge a lot?
Yeah. I mean,
I see.
They were just bringing up a lot of things that they didn't have. Like, it's almost like they were trying to get benefits and alimonies and stuff like that, like as if we were married, Okay. Like just a ton of like there were so many different financial things that they were trying to go after. Yeah. And they didn't have any basis off of it because like I said, like I moved her in with me, and at the time, like and I told the judge, I was like, I was paying for her school. I was still paying for her school at the time.
Yeah, so if anything, she might low-key owe me money.
Which
is what happened.
So
it backfired. All that character attack backfired.
Yeah.
I see.
I was super lucky. I felt super lucky because, like you said, it's just uncommon for that.
Yeah.
But like I was just super lucky just to get out of there, like, and I still, even the arrangement that we ended up agreeing on out of court was still the original arrangement that like I was trying to push before we went to court. Okay. You know what I mean?
It all ended up coming full circle right back to, did we really have to go through all that?
Yeah.
I see.
Because I'm not, I wasn't trying to really like, get back at her or anything like that. Okay. Because, we broke up. We broke up because of infidelity and,
Understood.
Understood. But I never really, used my son, in that manner against her like that. So I was like, look, you just go your way, I go my way, and we'll just.
And are you guys civil?
Yeah, now we are.
Okay,
now
so
we
present day, you guys are civil.
It's like we never after the whole situation, like I was really tore up. I had a lot of demons that I had to deal with after that whole situation. But like, I want to say it took me about 3 years to kind of like really like come around and kind of like, okay, look, let me be a little bit more civil, because I wasn't like necessarily like, I wasn't necessarily being outwardly angry or anything like that, but like
it was brewing inside.
When look, we still had the on and off weekends or whatnot.
Okay.
Anytime I would drop my son off or whatnot, or she would come pick him up, it was just like a quick exchange. Like, here, take him.
I'm not really trying to look at you.
Yeah, I'm not trying to look at you. I'm not trying to deal with you.
I see.
Or anything like that. And it was like that for 3 years, and that actually affected me a little bit more.
Yeah, and what, of course, at the time you didn't really necessarily factor in but like little kids are smart.
Yeah.
So they sense all of it, right?
Yeah.
And it affects them.
Yeah. So it was around when he was going to kindergarten or starting kindergarten.
Yeah.
Where I really had to like reflect on myself and really like sit down with her and say. So I called her and I said, look, like let's talk or whatnot.
Yeah.
Because she was always, even after that whole situation, like she was always on the defense after that.
Okay.
Because I was just really like I made it obvious that I was pissed off.
Sure.
And I was mad, but so she was always apologetic or whatnot afterwards.
Yeah.
After the fact, but like it wasn't until like I said, like until he started kindergarten where I was like, okay, I gotta let this demon go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of. Because it's starting to like affect me as a person,
Yes,
and who I am and stuff. So I met up with her and we sat down. We had a conversation.
You guys had an adult conversation.
Yeah. We had a conversation. She said her piece, I said mine, and and the biggest thing I told her, I was like, look, like I'm still healing from that situation. But I'm gonna try to make a more active effort to be better towards you.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want him to like I said, as he's getting older and stuff like that, he's gonna start picking up on things and stuff like that, and that's not something that I want him to really pick up on or me still dealing with at the time.
Yeah. So you've been able to go through all of these things that we've just talked about, and you've got a process. You have a structure to it. And you have this balance of your time and your efforts and obviously your son, right? Mm-hmm. So we go through all of this stuff, the accident that really messed you up, right? The car build, and then, having a son, fighting for your son. And we go through all of these things and we get here to more present day, right? Mm-hmm. And, your company, right? First it was Jam Exclusives, but then it became Unlimited Exclusive. And then your catchphrase, if that's even the right way to call it, what you say is, your slogan is, be unlimited.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that, man.
Okay.
I want to talk about where be unlimited comes from. Because unlimited is a good word. You know me, I'm a fan of words and meanings and context. Be unlimited. Speak on that.
So, at the birth of it, like I said, when I had all my friends in the room with me, and it was probably about 6 of us, I always believed in other people.
Okay.
And I always saw potential in other people that they may not have even seen for them.
Do you mean generally, philosophically, or specifically? Like you are looking at a person, you are friends with a specific person, and you see potential, or do you mean just in general?
Specifically.
Okay, specific people. Okay.
And I always saw potential in them.
Yes.
That they may not even saw for themselves.
Okay.
And I said, look, I want this to be an outlet for you to be able to, bring out that potential in you.
Yes.
Because that was something that I always loved and always saw joy in, and being able to see people, like aspire and go after their passions, or, who they really are, things of that nature. So that's kind of what what really drove me to start on Be Unlimited.
Yes.
Or at least to Be Unlimited, because I believe that we all have this potential in us for greatness, whatever that may be to each and it may be just to be a great father.
Yeah.
It may be to be the best photographer in the world.
Yeah.
Whatever. We all have. I firmly believe that we all have that potential, and with the things that I want to do, I want to be able to bring that out in people, and that's just always just been who I am.
Yeah.
So I've kind of built that company around, just who I am. And
so you still have the automotive branch.
Yep.
You still, and then you have the photography and videography.
Mm-hmm.
So you do everything from audio editing, video editing, video production, coloring, grading, music overlaying. Okay, when, how, where does someone learn how to do one of those things, much less all of them?
You just gotta make the time, man. You just gotta. It's crazy that I'm like reflecting on it now and just really like looking at the overall picture of like all the different things that I've learned over the years, and really like, damn, I really fit all that into this little amount of time, or this
of your existence on this planet.
Yeah. And man, like,
look, like we talked about, right? So in the beginning, you had the cars, right? So and you end up being linked up with a car show series like Tuner Evolution. So then practicing your photography on cars, and then having women that were willing to sit for you, coming up with ideas of like, outfits and all that stuff. So that realm, which is going to be relatable to a lot of people listening, right? Because I'm not trying to be harsh right now, but every woman's like Instagram model now, right?
Yeah.
Like the average female posts photos that are very model-esque, and you're like, but you're not. Okay, so I'm just okay. So anyways,
I know where you go.
Okay, so cars and people.
Yeah.
Of course, it's pretty cool if they happen to be attractive females, right? But people, right? Of any type, and obviously your son playing, capturing moments as a dad. So there's all these realms of photography, right? Which is such a limitless like art, right? And then you get to this, I shoot. The one thing I don't do is I don't do videography, right? And it's not to say that I don't think I can, but I have not put any amount of time into it. I know how to shoot. I know how to compose a photo. I'm very heavy into not post-processing, which in this day and age doesn't really work, because you kind of need a signature tone, a signature feel, I mean, you can shoot raw and you can have a great depth of field, but people's eyes, because of social media and being bombarded with these overly edited, sometimes wonderfully done, but edited nonetheless. When you look at a raw photo, it's almost boring to many people now, right? People like seeing a twinkle, right? You had a moon, right? You add tone, you take a lot of warmth, you make a lot of blues, a lot of sepias, like nothing can just be shot.
Yeah.
There's a very large and a growing volume of people that like to have a signature feel. Like even the color grading in a video, it can't just be shot in high res or 4K. That doesn't. It's boring. It's got to have effects and transitions. Like when I saw automotive video when dubstep was the thing. Remember car show videos when dubstep was the music? That dude, dubstep makes you want to like punch people in the face and climb walls, man. And and they would transition. You're just like, I'm about to have an epileptic seizure right now.
It's interesting. It's interesting that everybody, you're right. Like that's a lot of what people are looking for, or at least are attracted to.
Yes.
But like you said, like it's still not reality of like what's relevant.
Yes.
So
do you see are people circling back to appreciating more real, raw type of stuff?
I think people appreciate real raw stuff already. And that's what really, if you really look at, there's stuff that's, that's entertaining or whatnot, but a lot of like content that is motivating and that is that is positive, or just something that connects with other people. Like people resonate with that stuff, and it's not
Authenticity.
it's not because of a filter. It's not because of an emoji that they saw, or a meme that they saw. You know what I mean? Like, you're actually connecting with something that's real, and once you get past the thought of that you need a filter, or that you need this or you need that, or whatever case may be, when you get down to it, what really resonates with you and what you decide that you want to share is something that connects with you personally.
Yes.
And
so that's where you feel like the well of inspiration come from. It has to come from within. We talked about that.
Yeah.
You can go looking around everywhere, but in the end, if it isn't inside of you, if you're not looking inside of you, you're gonna run out.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm passionate about bringing out in people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see that in your work, right?
Yeah.
So whether it be still photography or your videos, speaking on videos, so when you have done some of these professional gigs that you've gotten, right, for music, right, for example, are you also the creative director?
Yep.
Okay, so do you have an artist or a model or someone come up to you and say, "I've seen your stuff"? Kind of like, when you develop a reputation as a tattooist,
Yeah.
There's tattooists that specialize black and white, portrait, Japanese, whatever, right?
Absolutely.
So the person that wants that type of thing, they find or hear of a specialist, they go to them and say, "This is the idea of what I want," and then the rest is up to them. That's how it is in the tattooing world. Is it like that with you?
So yeah, and with me, I really try to look and ask them, what's your dream vision?
Yeah.
What do you really want to do? Because everybody has a dream vision, whether it's realistic or not.
Sure.
And
I like the ones that aren't realistic.
Yeah, I love
Because
them.
who the
I
hell
love
told you
it.
what's realistic or not?
I love
right?
it. I almost listen to it as as a people watcher. I kind of just I hope and pray that I get something that's really off the wall and interesting, and those are the ones that I kind of like gravitate to. Or that I get excited. Those are the projects that I kind of get excited for, because it's I'm creating something that's completely just authentic to you.
Okay, so you are the one pushing the button. You're the one holding the camera, the gimbal, the tripod, the audio, the recording. You are the creative director and the producer. How did it come to the point where, because there are many people who are extraordinarily good at creative direction.
Absolutely.
There are people who are extraordinarily good at production, direction, and then they have gimbals and hands and gaffers, like in the movie industry. There's people who do one thing.
Yeah.
And they're good at it.
Yeah.
And you put those people who are good at one thing together and you make an amazing team, right? That's what a movie studio is, right?
Yes.
Okay. But it's effectively just you.
Yeah.
Okay. How? Why? Why do you do that instead of looking for someone who's good at one thing and then adding them to a team under maybe the Unlimited Exclusive title or umbrella, right? Why do you do it the way you do it?
I'm actually I started to kind of branch out and kind of look for those different pieces.
Yes.
But then I learned a lot about myself and my level of leadership, that's something that I need to learn and work on.
You mean how to delegate, how to run it? I see.
Because I had a period where I said, okay, let me start breaking up some of these hats that I was wearing, and then I quickly learned that it wasn't just a snap my fingers and here's your paycheck, have a nice day, and everything works out perfectly in my favor.
And I'm gonna presume that you learned that the hard way.
I learned it the very hard way,
as we all do. Yeah.
But I'm already mentally receptive to the process and learning different things and being wrong. I'm okay with that.
Yes.
So now it's really like learning I really focus on learning how to lead better.
Yes.
So that
it's a powerful tool, man.
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool.
And that relies on me going back to just focusing on me and focusing on making sure that, I have my system correct before I can necessarily pass my system on to somebody else.
So while you work on being a what you believe is a better leader and a better delegator and a guide and a boss, right? In the meantime, you just do it all yourself, and
Yep.
you have to answer to yourself,
Yep.
right? So having to sit. Okay, so let's talk about photography, right? In this day and age, you have kids, whether they did it themselves, and I think there's a lot of embarrassment if you end up coming from maybe a well-to-do family or parents that are willing to support you, and you're like, well, I just so happen to be into, instead of playing a sport, which they need to buy you a single basketball or shoes or something, they're like, well, I happen to be into, and it's like, and I need this camera and this prime lens, and I need, and it just so happens to be, this is thousands of dollars, and some parents are like,
Yeah.
hey, you better take it seriously, but sure. Okay, so you have kids that are walking around these car shows, 15, 16-year-old kids with super dope bodies
Yes.
and super dope lenses. You got some people
Way
walking
better,
around
way better material than I have.
than what you currently have as a
Yes.
grown man, right?
Yes.
You see, I mean, I'm with you at these
Yeah.
events. I see kids walking around with some amazing gimbal setups, right?
I saw this. I remember. I'll never forget. I had ran into this kid, and I was looking at his rig.
Yeah.
And I counted at least $6,000.
Sure, just off
Easy.
that one setup visible
Just off
to you.
just off that. And I was like, hey man, what do you do? Blah blah blah. And he's, oh, I just work for a sneaker store. He was a 16.
Yeah. $6,000 setup. He works for a sneaker store, so he's not making that much money, right?
Yeah.
But so I believe, as much as the first thing that we as maybe older dudes want to do is be like, yo, what the fuck's wrong with you? But no, right? Like, as long as he's putting in the practice, now he just gets to practice with doper toys and doper tools. But the one thing they have to do is practice, right? Like, if you had to come up with a number, if you just had to, I'm telling you right now, Jason, I want you to give me a number.
Okay.
How many thousands of exposures do you think it would take a person to get to a point where they are comfortable with their shooting? Not video, images. Do you have a number in your head?
I would, man. It'd have to be five. It'd have to be at least 5 digits.
5 digits.
Yeah.
So minimum 10,000 exposures, right? And that's 10,000, not random push the button, but like have an idea of what you're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
So if a kid's listening right now and wants to be a photographer, they already have a dope rig, they already have whatever, or they don't, right? So right there, 10,000 shots, right? 10,000 shots of what, Jason?
10,000 shots of what I would say is different techniques.
Okay.
It's not necessarily like what they shoot. It's just how they shoot.
Okay. What if they want to be a car blogger? What if they just want to take pictures of cars?
If they want to be a car blogger, then shoot to tell a story or shoot with a purpose. And in those shots, every shot you should be able to back up with a story or tell of why you chose that shot.
Yeah. Not just to get mods that are visible on the car.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. What if they want to shoot models? What if they want to shoot women? They see the Instagram pages with these dudes that have all kind of fine women that are half naked or fully naked. This is a real thing. It's a real thing. And there are kids who are looking at it. Car guys. What do you say? Go and shoot.
I was out there, and if you're gonna involve people,
yes,
go shoot. Get those people. Get comfortable with actually giving direction.
Yes,
that's a big thing. Get comfortable with giving direction. Get comfortable with being professional.
Yes.
Because if you're gonna shoot girls, there's a lot of weird guys out there. There's a lot of inappropriate. There's a lot of red tape all over that.
Yeah.
And then also understand lighting.
Yeah.
And practice lighting. All these things, don't even have anything to do with the camera.
Yeah. It's the framing, the composition of it, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think that the up and comer should go take a couple of classes at the local JC? Do you think they should go do that, or do you think that's not even really necessarily important? Rule of thirds, framing composition, you can just teach it to yourself via studying online. What do you think?
I think there's a structure. There's a structure to learning in a classroom.
Yes.
And that's something that I definitely appreciate now.
Yes.
As an as I'm older and reflecting now, because the way I learned was a little bit sporadic, and I was it was kind of like, okay, once I hit a wall, now I'm going to learn about this and how to try to get around this wall, versus really having a curriculum that kind of walks you through a process of all these different techniques.
Yeah.
That's a little bit faster and a little bit more efficient.
Yeah.
Than
so
the
you
way
you do think that should definitely be something they look into, is taking at least a couple of courses to break that ice and give them the basics.
Yeah, and what it also will do is it'll give them knowledge about what the tool that they're using.
Yeah.
Because it's not just I'm gonna point, shoot, and live on auto.
But see, you bring up a good point, right? Because you got younger people or any people who are taking, these are technologically, dramatically advanced bodies. Mm-hmm. And they basically have them on auto. Yeah. It's auto ISO, auto focus, and whatever lens they put on it, it's gonna create a dope photo as far as depth of field and resolution, but where's the art in it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and all those things that I mentioned before, like I said, the art has little to do with the camera, and all about what all of the environment, what you're shooting, what you choose, the angle that you choose to shoot. Yeah. Why you chose that angle. Some angles are particularly better for certain cars or certain models. Yeah. Or, you know what I mean? Depending on what you're.
Well, I've seen the one that women like. You got to have that 80% downward angle.
Absolutely not. I don't know why they even do that.
Why do they do the downward? Because they say it's slimming. That's the answer I've always gotten. They do the selfie downward because it's slimming. Less chin, more boob, less waist.
Bigger head. I'm gonna let you girls know.
To making the head look big, looking like a Tyra Banks forehead.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not falling for it.
So angles, lighting, framing, composition.
Those are all part of the art that you kind of necessarily have to respect if you want to necessarily grow in that field. Mm-hmm. Whatnot. If it's just a hobby, you do whatever you want to do.
I see.
But when I hear, people that want to be professionals, but they don't want to necessarily put in the time to necessarily learn what the professionals know. Yeah. There's a big difference between, the professionals' work and one question that burns my soul. Okay. Every time, every forum I see it on my timeline. Okay. They'll see an amazing photo done by a professional or amazing video done by the professional, and what are the first thing they ask?
What lens did you use?
What lens did you use? Yes. What camera did you use?
I knew it.
I don't want to curse. But that's free. What it makes me feel like.
Feel free. What lens did you use? What camera? What body?
What the hell does it matter? What the hell do you know? Yeah. Like I said, and that's.
Dude, I've done shots on my iPhone using a particular app, right? That mimics depth of field. Okay. Yeah. And I have had people message me and say, "Yo, what lens did you use?" Oh my god! And I'm like, I just use an iPhone 8.
That is the worst question of 2020 right now.
That's the new question for 2020. And we're not even in 2020. And it's going to be the question, what lens did you use?
Yeah, me and my friend were just talking about that. It's probably the biggest insult that you could do. It's one of the biggest insults that you can do to a photographer, especially one that puts in a lot of effort into their work or whatnot, and that never gets spoken on.
It's like a woman eating quinoa and kale for like a month straight and doing 1,000 sit-ups, and someone coming up there and be like, "Hey, who's your surgeon?"
Yeah, right? Exactly. That's exactly how it feels.
Just taking away all of the skill and the effort and the focus, and just like, so who made that look like that?
People will switch photographers just for the cameras. Oh, this person doesn't have a good camera.
Yeah, but what about the work, the end product?
It has nothing to do about the camera. It could be communication. Yeah. It could be a communication issue where they didn't understand necessarily exactly what you wanted or how you wanted it, And if that communication issue was squared away, that they could probably create a better product or create a better end product. It's crazy to me. Like,
so what do you say about the whole Canon versus Nikon versus Sony? What do you say about all that? What do you say? Because there are going to be people who are like Canon for life. Nikon, Sony, mirrorless. What do you say?
To me,
To you, sure.
it doesn't matter, man.
It doesn't matter.
Every camera body has its own pros and cons against the others.
Yes.
Like Sony, for example, I think Sony's done an amazing job with catering to video.
Yes.
And all the different features that it has on that camera. So I mean, there's technology.
You mean like the mirrorless joints,
Yeah,
like the
I mean,
A7 III and A7 III?
There's so many. When you talk about tech, there's so many different specs and differences. But each difference doesn't work for everybody.
Dude, you know what it's like to me? To me, it's kind of like Photoshop, right? You could get the newest version every time it comes out, right? But Photoshop has thousands of drop-down menus and options and configurations. Like, you could be in there and be I know photographers who make a living as a photographer, and they're like, I've probably never used more than 40%. 35 to 40% of what Photoshop can do. It is capable of the craziest things.
That is absolutely true.
And you don't really, in your particular field, will ever need them. But you have people who are always trying to get like the newest iPhone, the newest whatever, and you're like, what about mastering what you have?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What about mastering what you have? Because if you could take an old Canon, 5D or whatever, you can go up against anyone with a 60.
Absolutely.
But if they just know how to auto everything, right? And you are over here like manipulating settings to achieve. That's why old film photographers are like, digital's amazing, but film, you had to get it right.
Yeah,
you had to get it
you
right.
only had one try.
And you're gonna find out you didn't get it right later. When you go in, you're dipping.
You got a whole process.
You hold it up and you wait till it dries, and you open your eyes. You're like, God damn! Now you got to try to go capture that moment again, and you might never be able to do so. So the old school. That's the whole millennial thing. I think they're like, here we go with the old heads, but there's a reason for that.
It forced a mastery of the skills, especially like old. And one thing like I give high respects to is like the old school photographers, even like war photographers and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, man.
Like.
They're out there, like, you want to go capture. They're out there getting shot at.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
To capture moments of pain and smiling and all that. Like, so it's kind of like with journalism.
Yeah.
Like as a photojournalist or as a journalist, like an investigative journalist. You got journalists that are flying into, like, we're talking about war zones. And they're over there wearing garb and sitting next to people and to see and capture these things to share with the world. And there are journalists who died. They've been captured. They've been killed because they're trying to capture these moments. And people are over here just like, yo, let me just screenshot that and I'll add a building in the background or can I right click and save that off of the Googles? And I'm just like, yo, someone had to capture that.
Yeah.
You have these photos, these base photos that they have now created. Someone captured that. Dude, nature photography. The people who are they're not moving for like 3 days to get one shot of a bull, a bison, a squirrel
catching insects.
Yeah, man. And I'm like, yo, these people are in the cut.
Yeah.
Just like on some ninja shit.
Yeah.
To get one good photo of this rare animal, it's endangered species, and then they'll go put it together like Nat Geo photographers. Wild, man, Nat Geo. But that's what I'm saying. So you have this, for the people in the car world or being around women and models and stuff, it's one thing, but I mean the spectrum of the reach of the art is incredible, right? And people are using 0.1% of it,
Yeah, and it kills me. I wish I wish guys that could really grasp that and and be more enthusiastic about really mastering
Yeah.
those different techniques, because there's so many kids that I get the benefit of talking to, and are eager to be automotive photographers, or have their shots in magazines and stuff like that, and they're really, again, like you said, they're just missing out on the larger spectrum. And really having hobby habits for something that you want to be a professional for.
Okay, so whether it be photography, videography, car building, modification, whatever, right? What are some of the things that you could turn to somebody of any age who just so happens to end up being in a conversation with you? I mean, that's what community conversations is all about. Like I said, like the whole point of the community conversation subset of the Think Bigger podcast is to have a conversation with a member of the community. The community. It's this broad term on purpose, because we're all members of the community, right? To have a conversation with a member of the community, to learn not just about them, like your story, your son, high school. That's all about you. But then people here are listening, man, and they're learning from you. The passion, the work ethic, the how to prioritize and how to be a good parent. And that's what it's all about, right? It's to bring us together so that people can listen to this, stop, rewind, forward, come back to it a day later, a month later, and just listen to your words, If you had a person of any age, of any ethnic background, any demographic, and they just asked you, like I'm lost. I don't really know what to do. What do you say, Jason?
I would have to say, really spend some time with yourself, kind of spend some time meditating.
Yeah.
Really trying to figure out and really look at the things that make you light up, that you get excited about, just naturally, not because of, some type of incentive or, because of some type of reward, but like what really makes you happy, what really, that you really enjoy doing. And it doesn't even have to be a profession or, some big time career thing. Just, what really puts a smile on your face and gets you excited about things, and start there,
When you say meditate, spend some time with yourself, you don't mean like on some Buddhist meditation, right? That's the first thing I think that this image that people get in their head. Yeah. But you're talking, what's one of the things I always talk about is self-awareness. You have to be aware of who you are. And the only way you learn who someone else is you spend time with them. But what about yourself? Nobody's developing this relationship with themselves. People don't know who they are. They don't know where they stand. And what you just said right there is so crucial. You have to spend time, turn the TV, turn the phone off, turn the radio off. You need to be inside of your own head, have a conversation with yourself, learn yourself, right? People aren't doing that. But because one of the things we talked about is, man, there's a one thing that it's kind of a hard thing to talk about sometimes, and that people are sad, right? Yeah. And you and I have had very deep conversations. Everything from how it is to date at this time, this day and age, and our age as men, and cars and life, but I mean, there's also certain amounts of time that as adults, it's a little bit difficult to say to anyone that you're sad. Yeah. Right? And whether they're our age, older or younger, the range of humans that listen to the Think Bigger podcast is very diverse. Yeah. So whatever they are, wherever they are in life, at whatever age they are, what would you say to someone who's just like, I didn't want to say it. I was hoping they were going to say it, and they finally said it. So like, I'm like, I don't know what I want to be or what I am or who I am, and I'm kind of sad. Yeah. What do you say to that?
When I got in that accident, and that was around the same time that I was going through my situation with my kid's mom. Yes. So it was kind of like a double whammy for me. Yeah. And that's when I kind of took a step back. I got to a place where I was just kind of just living blindly, and I just, I didn't really want to deal with the pain. I didn't really want to.
So you blocked it out?
Yeah,
you just floated through life.
Yeah, because I was so busy with so many different things, so it was easy for me to kind of like just not really deal with it or not really address it. Just keep my hands busy, and it'll help me kind of distract myself. But then after a few years of that, I started like just running into situations, and I'm just like, damn, like how did I get into this point? And I started realizing that, like I might be sad, or I might be depressed, or I might still be, dealing with this situation. And it was hard for me to kind of really get a grasp for that until I kind of said, all right, let me start slowing down. Let me just.
Well, it started with you owning it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I need to own it. You can't deflect it even from yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sad, and I need to deal with this.
Yeah, because life will reveal those things. Life will reveal those things to you, regardless. Regardless of what you do, regardless of how much you try to hide certain things. Karma will come back on you. So once I got to that point where there was no running.
Yes.
Away from it.
Yes.
That was when I had to really face. That's when I really had to face myself, and realize that I'm really not happy with who I am, or what I've kind of turned into, or what I've kind of drifted away from the things that actually made me happy. Mm-hmm. So that's when I started, really questioning myself. Who do I really want to be? What really makes me happy?
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm doing right now really gonna make me happy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really just, that's what I mean by like meditation, is really having that time to yourself. And those moments really would come at night, There's nights that, you just go to I would just lay in bed and just, I wouldn't be tired, but I just, my head would be running, or, I'll be in the shower. That's the only quiet time that, that I would have, or right after I would put my son down at night. Everything, the house is just quiet after that.
Yeah.
And I just, I think back on just, where I'm at, who I am, and I just, once you start asking yourself those questions and then really forcing yourself to really come up with an answer, I think, listening to your podcast, and getting to know you, that's something that really pushed me to really find those answers, because I remember in one of your very early podcasts, it was addressing, people just living their lives and not really having any like drive or purpose,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was in that position where I was just floating, or I was kind of just drifting and not really staying focused on those goals that I had, or the aspirations that I wanted to do, that required a lot of energy. It required me to be at a certain level with myself, and I wasn't really keeping up with those things. So once I had to really come up with those answers, because every time we talk, it's that's one of the things that I like about you the most, is that you really force people to like come up with an answer. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know, is really not good enough.
It's not an answer.
It's not an answer. That's it, And when I really started bringing that into myself, and I really started saying, you know what, like, I really got to come up with an answer, or I really got to, figure it out and stuff like that. So, once I started doing that, like I said, once I started doing that, focusing on, what makes me happy, am I happy, all right, I'm not happy. Why? What's causing it? And really just start having a breakdown of all those different things, and really coming up with a plan to really turn those things around and really, come out of that.
That's you and I have had many conversations over the phone and in person, but in this moment, in this podcast context, I didn't know a lot of what of what you just said, and or if I knew the story, I didn't know these details. And that's kind of one of those things, where you said the rhetorical question that I ask or present in the podcast is one thing, but it's you having to answer the question that is where the real change can come from. So you, as an intelligent man who's gone through much more than even me in certain ways, and people listening are like, wow, that's fantastic and crazy to hear, but then they get to also hear the vulnerability of you saying, I didn't know what I was doing either, and something like this podcast was a point of push to help you, and that's a beautiful thing. That's what it's all about, And I mean, obviously, with you, I feel like we could have part 2 and 3, and why not, right? Given the way certain circumstances are, you and I we're gonna end up being friends regardless. But we also have circumstances that allow us to be able to have these types of conversations, even though we live across the country from each other, not just over the phone, but in person. Sometimes up to could be 10 times a year. Yeah. Right. Given the TE tour and something like that. So I look forward to that, and I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be another part, but we'll just have to go into that at the next part, because I want to give people the opportunity to be able to go see you and what you're about, right? So what are the best places for the listeners to go and see what it means to be unlimited? You know what I'm saying?
Just go on. You can just go on Facebook, Unlimited Exclusive Media. Okay. Or you can just go on Instagram, Unlimited EXL. Yep. And I'm there.
Okay, so you guys, for those of you listening on YouTube, I'll put it in the caption below, all of those links and .coms and social media outlets for him. For those listening on other platforms, go to my Instagram, and in the caption, once again, I'll tag him. And what I do is I put a color-coded thumbnail for each episode on my personal Instagram page. And all that really is creating a comment section to be a forum in which we can continue the conversation. So if you have a question for him, obviously, you can DM, you can email, you can Facebook, or you can ask it in a more public setting on my Instagram post, because you guys, for those of you that aren't necessarily shy to ask the question, other people are. For every one of you that isn't shy to just type out a question about, well, what happened here, or what makes you say that, or I don't agree with this, other people aren't, but they're listening. And when they watch, your comment and question to him or to me might be the extra push someone needs to get out of their own way and step out of their comfort zone and continue the conversation there. That's what it is. We're all a community, and we have to help each other. It's not every man for himself. It's not dog eat dog. I don't believe that. I believe that if we build each other up, how much stronger can we be? For sure. So, community conversations, Think Bigger podcast. Jason Moseley, a.k.a. Unlimited Exclusive, a.k.a. Be Unlimited, a.k.a. Unlimited EXL. You guys, I appreciate you. Follow him, check out his work, and once again, we appreciate all of you listening. Jason, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
God bless you guys. Have a good one.